Alrighty, folks, as you can see, we have the man, myth, the legend, Mr. Ryan Pineda back with us. We're going to do lots of things today. We're going to get a review of what's going on in 2025, both in Vegas and the rest of the country. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about 2026. We're going to talk about a day that he posted on Instagram that was a horrible, bad day. I want to poke at that a little bit. And I'm sure we will get into more and more details. Ryan, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. It's always good to see you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, the first thing I wanted to check in with you is we had a show that posted on both our channels in early January that talked about 2025 being, quite frankly, a tough year.
Yeah,
I think I went as far as saying as 2025 will be a cycle low for transactions. In fact, I think I said the only people that are going to win will be builders who could do rate buy downs, right? The big national builders, and investors if they got focused and bought right. I think that's proven to be pretty accurate. We've got now rates over 7%. We've got record uncertainty because of all the tariffs and Liberation Day and all of that. But given you run a big business in Vegas and then you have a national presence, I'm curious, as we sit here roughly at the 40% mark for 2025, what's going on?
Yeah, I think all those things are playing out. I think our predictions were pretty spot on, so I think good for us. Yeah, and I think, look, transaction volume is still low. Rates are still where they are. Nothing's changed. We had this tariff situation, which complicated matters even more and made things more uncertain. And we're still kind of at that point, Trump and China just had the basically stalemate for the next 90 days, but I think they're both in agreement that they're just going to continue on that page for the foreseeable future. And, even with that agreement, I still have not seen the market turn. So usually with something like that, you'd be like, okay, everyone's feeling good again. Stocks went back up, but like supply is still increasing. So, and right now, historically, is when supply needs to be decreasing. So I am concerned about that a lot.
Yeah, when you look at 2025 kind of in a right now, and I love talking to you because you have coverage of the entire country like very few people do, right? You run a big operation in Vegas, but you went national a year or two ago.
Yep.
I'm curious, when Liberation Day happened and that tariff announcement went out, it was like an earthquake in much of the country. I'm curious what happened in your business. Like, did deals go away? Did buyers go away? Did lending get tougher? Did you get better opportunities? Maybe because sellers want to sell. I'm just curious. Did it feel like an earthquake in your business or just normal?
To be honest, I think that the business this year has been pretty status quo to what we said in January. I don't think the tariff thing mattered at all for the 6 weeks or however long it was. It didn't matter at all. I think that, well, and look, here's to say, and I don't want to say it didn't matter because right now might be the reason why we haven't seen supply decrease like it usually does because of that the last 6 weeks. So maybe there might be a 6 weeks delay in when supply will decrease. So I can't say it didn't have any effect, but in terms of did people just stop buying or anything else? No, that didn't happen. Like, it's just kind of been as predicted.
So the next thing I'm curious about, and it might be just a whisker too early, this may be coming in the next 30 days. What I'm curious about, because again, I called 2025 being the year of the investor. I'm curious if you're going to start getting better and better deals, because what's happening across the country is inventory is growing, but also days on market are growing. And at some point in that equation, investors are going to come in and just start stealing stuff, right? Find the motivated seller, create the opportunity. Have you started to see sellers capitulate and go, I give up, I want out, or is it just too early?
No, I haven't seen that. Look, we've been saying this for a few years now with those sellers locked into low mortgage rates. So the last 2 years statistically have been the lowest transaction volume since the recession. And it's like, okay, when we have low transaction volume and we have more supply than ever, right? I mean, technically, there's been way more houses built since 2008. And so when we have less transactions and more houses, that tells you that overall, less people just don't want to sell. And the reason that most people don't want to sell is like, I think, what's the stat? Still half of America is locked into a 3% mortgage.
Yeah.
So, and I think half of America also knows they'll lose everything before they
Right.
lose their house right now because they know they can't rent for less. They'll never
Yeah.
probably sniff that mortgage again. Like they're just not going to give it up. So no, they're not capitulating, even though times have gotten tough because they understand what they've got.
Yeah. Yeah. The magic of this cycle versus the Great Recession is what you pointed out, that shelter cost. A lot of these crash bros and doomers are like, oh, people are going to give up. They're going to let it go. Just like last time. I'm like, no, you're not. Why are they going to let go of their house when they're going to have to go rent a smaller apartment for more money? That just doesn't make sense. They're going to do everything they can to hold on to that. So that makes sense. Next thing I'm curious about when you look at your business, maybe this is maybe more specific to Vegas. Is it still very much below the median, which we'll call 440 or whatever it is here, kind of still relatively hot if you can get in and clean something up? And then as you get farther above the median, it gets slower and slower and slower?
You know, it's interesting because I was talking to one of my luxury friends about this. I have a few luxury flips going on right now. And he said, it's weird. In my luxury market, 1 to 3 million isn't selling, but ultra luxury's flying off the shelf. He's like, these
Oh,
5
wow.
million plus guys, they're coming in, paying over market value, just eating them up. And I was like,
Hmm.
that makes sense, right? Like when you're ultra rich right now, you're just not affected. It just like, this
Yeah.
doesn't matter to you. But when you're in that $1 to $3 million house range, I know like that's your house,
Yeah.
my house. Like, it's like, yeah, we're not like so rich that we can just go blow money on whatever. It's like, yeah, this really matters. Do I really want a $3 million home right now?
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes sense intuitively from that standpoint. And then I think when you get below luxury, in Vegas, we would consider anything like a million plus luxury.
Sure.
When you get below luxury, the middle class home now might be call it 600 to 900. I mean, that's really kind of middle class.
Hmm.
And 500 and below is entry level.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that's an entry level home now. So yeah, entry level home is going to be super impact. I think both of those are very impacted by what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, the level of uncertainty again, if you're scratching by and you've put together, a 5% down payment on an entry level home and you're, maybe you're going to be left with $5,000 in your account after the down payment. You're like, "Oh, I'm going to wait and see, right? Is this recession, is this tariff thing, the consumer in my opinion is so predictable it's almost comical. When a consumer is scared, they do nothing. They just sit on their wallet and just wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Mhm.
So the next thing I'm curious about is I think in most of the country, and near as I can tell, Vegas is as well, the spring selling season landed as a dud, right? Not doing the transactions you wanted. Hence, inventory is growing when it should be shrinking. I think that's true in much of the country. But my
Yep.
question for you is, do you think we might see a unseasonable bounce in like the fall after we get rid of the 110-degree temperatures here? Do you think enough people will be less uncertain, less afraid later in this year, or do you think we got to get 25 in the books and get on to 2026 spring selling season? How long do you think this takes?
Yeah, I think that back to what we were saying earlier, maybe the tariff situation delayed the normal springtime frenzy. And so
Mhm.
maybe we're going to see, that frenzy come here in June and July instead of April and May.
Okay.
And if that's the case, great. I'm all for it. And then, it slowly, now it bleeds into September, October when normally that might not be the case.
Mhm.
So, I'm all for it. I hope it happens. I hope that we get great news, at least in terms of lowering rates, because that always brings excitement.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, this tariff thing I think is kind of done. I don't see that changing anything going forward. Um, Rates are really the only positive lever left that we could do.
Yeah, and rates unfortunately yesterday went over 7%, and over the last year or so, 7% has kind of been like the death line. It's just where buyer demand just disappears.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if we got to 6% rates again, I think you would see a ton of action.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, let's kind of I guess the last thing about 2025 is there was a big, I don't know, thought process that you would get a lot of SoCal activity, even more than normal because of the fires. but I'm not sure insurance money has come through yet or whatnot. Did you ever see kind of an uptick, or have you heard about an uptick of California buyers coming after the fires?
I mean, I would guess that they would be more in the luxury market. So I
Okay.
personally I don't even pay attention. I have no idea.
Got it. No problem.
But it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's get into 2026. That's really where I reached out to you and said, let's talk about it. Obviously 2025 is going to go down as I'm calling it the last hard year, right? The worst year of the 4-year cycle.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. 2026 will, again, it's all about scale, right? So let's put some numbers on this. Existing home sales in the United States, I have been calling for sub 4 million. Let's call it 4 million so we can do easier math. That means I think we do like 4.2, 4.25 next year. So it's not going to be like back to 6, but it'll be 5 to 10% better than 25. And, more transactions, more activity, it just starts to feel better. But also, as you know, your competition is gone.
Oh
right?
yeah.
There's a lot. They're already gone, or their last breath, their last gasp is going to kill a lot of people in 25. So what are your thoughts on 26? And as you look out into the future, what are you doing, if anything, to get ready for it?
Well, a few things I think about now, having gone through, last, really 3 years being hard, because this really started in mid 22.
Yes.
So we're literally entering year 3. So maybe 3.5 years is going to be the total of hard years.
Yes.
So, the way I look at it is, a lot of people have come and go. I have also looked at it like in a new perspective of, I really respect people who have longevity in any one industry. So, in terms of, real estate investors, I really respect guys who have been doing this over 10 years, because I've seen how hard it is to do for a really long time with different cycles. Because it's easy to jump ship when things are tough and try to do something new. I've really learned to appreciate guys I've gotten to interview who've been doing, let's just say, the guru thing for a long time. So when I look at a guy like Ramsey or Cardone or Tony Robbins and guys who've been doing this for like 30 plus years, I'm like, man, to be in this space 30 years is incredible, because I've been in it now for, call it 5+ years, and I've seen so many people come and go in just 5 years. Right.
Yeah.
So I just have a lot of respect for longevity now, probably more than any other trait, because you can't fake longevity. You can fake having a few years, and I don't even want to call it fake. You can get lucky and catch great timing,
Yeah.
and crush it and look like a genius and everything else. And then, when the hard season comes, you either fold and capitulate, or you adapt and you grind through and you make it out. Right. But the only that means you have longevity if you did that. So I've really come to admire longevity more than anything. And it's something too that just can't like happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be proven over time.
Yeah. I think Grant Cardone has a quote. You can't, you can fake a Lambo, but you can't fake a jet. I think I've heard him say a couple of times. It's kind of like longevity.
Yeah.
Right. You can fake. Yeah. You can fake a couple of years, but when you put 25 years on the board, you can't fake that. I think that's wise advice. I'm curious, when you look, I don't know if you've really done any real planning out to 2026, but again, I look at your business as kind of really, I guess 3 businesses, but I'll talk about 2 here. One is you have a flipping business in Vegas, and then you have this rest of country wholesaling business. When you look at those two, have you started to think about 26 at all, or where are you in the second half of 25?
Yeah, I think that I am really trying to scale my nationwide wholesale.
Okay.
When I look at that, I like it for multiple reasons. One is the ROI is just, in my opinion, infinitely better, because now you can
time to cash is just
like you make a lot more money flipping or wholesaling quicker. I think that it's less risky. I think that it also prevents you from being in maybe a tough market, because the reality is, like, okay, Vegas right now is not like looking amazing in terms of being a flipper, because supply is just increasing. But not every market's like that. There are markets in the country right now on fire, just killing it. And so when you have the ability to go nationwide, you have the ability to target those markets. And so that's something I'm thinking about. And then also too, it's like, for me to scale this business nationwide, I already have like the infinite amounts of leads that we produce for our students and everyone else. So at this point, it's just a matter of how many great salespeople can I hire. And, finding great salespeople is not like the easiest task in the world, but it's if that's all I got to do, that's a lot better than having to go build out other things too.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So talking about the Vegas market, it is definitely slowing down, right? Inventory is clearly building, transactions are down, but it too will go through cycles. I'm curious, are you looking to add rentals if the numbers make sense, or not just yet?
Not yet. Probably not for the rest of this year. I think for me personally, I'm in a position where two things. One is I'm trying to stack cash. And so that's more important to me than buying a rental and using the cash for a rental. I'd rather stack more reserves and get back to a level where I call it my sleep at night number. As long as you have that much cash in the bank, you can sleep at night. And here's the thing. My number keeps going up because as wealthy investor starts to scale, we're spending more and more money. And so for me to sleep good at night, I need to have more in the bank. We went from spending, let's just say, and just on ad spend, by the way, like on ad spend, I went from spending usually 50 to 100 grand a month to now we're spending over 300 grand a month.
A month.
Wow. And I think that I can get to 500K a month. And when I say get to, that means that must it's like a machine. If I know I can put $1 in,
sure, let's
get more out. Right. Yep. So, as the stakes grow in that business, like I want to spend $1 million a month if it's possible. Right. Because that means I must be making a lot of money if I'm able to spend that much money. Right. But with that comes, like if we're going to be playing at big boy levels, you need more cash in the bank. And so I just kind of look at it like opportunity cost. It's like, would it be nice to, start buying rentals and put 100,000 in this one and that one, or have that ready to go deploy into this thing? And so I just am choosing that thing.
No, it makes total sense to me. I mean, again, the conversation we had in January, we talked about employees, myself selling time for dollars, you, the entrepreneur, basically buying other people's time. So that's what you're doing, right? You're basically buying scale. You're putting $1 in to get $7 back or whatever the return is.
Yeah.
So you're living that life, which is fun for me to watch and freaks me out at the same level. But hey, good for you.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. As long as I can watch over his shoulder, I can live vicariously. On that end, I want to go to an Instagram post you posted. I think it was about a week ago. It might have been 10 days ago. Where you basically said yesterday was one of the hardest days you had in your career. You didn't really get into the whys and hows and whats, but I thought it was so just raw, so on point. Because again, I think Instagram specifically is highlight reels.
Yep.
And here you are standing out with like a 3 or 4 minute message saying yesterday sucked and it was hard and all of that. So why'd you do it? And what'd you learn from it now that you did that?
Yeah, so let me be clear, I've gone through really, really hard things in my career, and I've talked about them on podcasts and different things. But most of them are always after the fact, after it's been solved and everything, a year ago or whatever, right? It's easier to talk about painful things once they're healed. And I had this conversation with the content team literally right before it happened, like a couple of days before. I was like, you know what, guys, I'm going to get way more intentional with our content. Everything's going to be, we're leveling up, guys. Like we're going to make content that we know people can relate to. The good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to be way more intentional with the ideas and all of these things. And so that's why you saw me put out videos about tariffs and other things, because I know people are thinking about them. That's why that's why I made that video. I just was like, look, this just happened. I'm going to make the video because I just know other people are going through the same thing. So anyways, normally, just to be clear, like I just wouldn't make the video, not because I'm like ashamed or anything, but because in my mind, I'm already moving on. I'm like, today sucked. Whoop-de-doo. Tomorrow's a new day. That's my mentality as an athlete. But I know that most people don't carry that mentality. Most people have a bad day and it turns into a bad week and turns into a bad month. It could even turn into a bad year.
Right.
And that's how a slump happens. It's from one bad game,
Yep.
and then you just don't ever get over it, right? You see that happen with people who don't get over relationships. They don't get over a failed business. And it's like they're spending years living in regret or pain. And it's like, just get over it. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to show people like, no, it's not that I don't go through bad days. Like literally today sucked. Let me tell you what happened, but it's that I know how to get over them. And I choose to believe that the next day is going to be better. And I don't know that, but I choose to believe that that's going to happen. And I choose to learn when something bad goes happen regardless, and try to make the next best choice. So that was kind of like the point of the message and why I did it, to give details about what exactly happened. Back to this, how do you spend $300K a month? Well, that means you got to go spend like $80K a week, right? So, how do you spend, in my life, 70, $80K a week? Well, we spend it on ads for this workshop that we do. So this is for Wealthy Investor. And basically I started doing this weekly workshop about 8 weeks ago. I was doing it once a month and pushing all my ad spend to do it once a month. And actually, this is a good lesson. So I was spending like 60, 70K a month on this workshop once a month, right? And so we get all these people on. It was great ROI, all that. And then I had this revelation from this multiple nine-figure business owners. Like, why don't you do it more? I was like,
yeah, some is good, more is better.
Yeah, if it works so good, why not do more? I was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to do a workshop like every week. That's a lot. Like, why do you got to do the workshop? I was like, that's a good question. And he's like, my company does 16 webinars a day. I was like, 16 webinars a day? How?
Like, wow.
A day. And I was like, how? He goes, I hire guys. So I have 5 people on staff. All they do is 3 webinars a day each. That's their job, 6 hours a day. I was like, oh, I mean, I hire people to do jobs. That makes sense to me. And so the light bulb just went off. I was like, look, I could spend the same 60K a week and get the money back every week and just start recycling it every week instead of per month. And so that's exactly what I did. I said, okay, I'm just going to spend it this whole week. And I know I'm going to make it back this week, and I'll just keep recycling the money every week. So it's not even any different cash outlay. And this is what people don't understand about cash flow that makes flipping and wholesaling so attractive. It's not just, oh, we made 20 grand. It's that, no, you had 20 grand. You invested in this deal or this marketing or whatever, and you made it back in 60 days.
Right.
Like when you buy a rental or anything else, that doesn't happen. You put it in and you don't get it back unless you refinance 6 months later, or a year later, or whatever, right? So velocity of cash is a really big deal in business. So I was like, oh, okay, I can now make my cash move in 7 days versus 30. So therefore I can now 4X the same cash. Right. So that's what I did. And it was working. It was going great. And then each week though, it also allowed me to test new things. And so every week I was like, let's try this, let's try that. Could it be better this way? Could it be better that way? And then eventually, it got to that week in particular. And I tried this whole new thing that I was like, this is the thing. This is going to crush
this is going to kill it.
Yeah. I'm like, this might double what we were doing before. This is like I'm so freaking smart. I can't believe nobody has ever thought to do this.
Oh,
and so I tried this whole new thing, and dude, freaking goose egg. I have literally never done one presentation in my entire life where I didn't sell something.
Wow.
But I laid a goose egg. And eventually, later on the next day, and, we sold some. So it wasn't the complete disaster. But boy, let me tell you, I felt like such a failure because, you spend 60, 70 grand to go do this thing. You make 0 back, and you thought you were going to absolutely kill it. My expectation was here, and the result was here. And so I said, look, is 60, 70 grand the most amount of money I've lost? No chance. I've lost a lot more money on real estate deals. But those real estate deals I had for 6 months, 7 months, a year, and I knew they were going to lose money. It's like the day this comes, like I already have seen it. I knew what was going to happen the moment we went into contract. I was going to have to write a big check. I just knew. But with this situation, expectations were here and result was here. And that's when people really go into a slump. I recognize that. Like, I recognize that, man, because from sports, I'm like, dude, I'm about to go 4 for 4 today. Like, today's the day I'm going to kill it. And then you go 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts. And you're like,
right.
Dude, I don't know that should be a baseball player. Like, I think this isn't for me because of unmet expectations. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that. And, they watch guys like you or me or whoever else. They expect that they should have these results. Then the results don't come. And then identity crisis comes, guilt, shame, anxiety, all these things start to happen to them and they never recover.
Wow. There's so much in that. I think your baseball career was certainly helpful because I think you're right. Identifying it as a potential slump, right? It's one thing to go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, but it's another thing to string together a 3 or 4 games of that kind of performance. So
to
that's
go
really
over
cool.
20.
Yeah, that's not good. I actually have a crazy question that just hit me that I've never asked you or anyone, frankly. Given that you were a professional baseball player and now you are an amazing golfer, what's harder, to hit a baseball or just a pure golf swing? What's harder?
I don't think it's close. It's baseball.
Yeah, I would think like a thing going over 90 miles an hour with movement's got to be hard.
Well, and all these guys throw 100 now, and
forget about it.
On top of that, you have someone trying to get you out. Throwing you 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, curveballs, sliders, splitters. You don't know what they're going to throw, and good luck. And then you have defenders trying to prevent you from getting the hit. So there's lots of things that have to go your way in baseball. And in golf, nobody is defending you.
Right.
Like, nobody's trying to make you not succeed. Okay. Now, granted, you are fighting the course, the ball, you might have got unlucky. The ball has a tough lie, that there's strategy and you got to execute your swing. But in baseball, you got to execute your swing too. Nothing is different except that you have no idea what's coming.
Yeah. Again, a question I never thought I'd ask anybody, but given you're a baseball guy, what do you think about Barry Bonds not being in the Hall of Fame?
Stupid. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the best hitter ever. He's probably, I would have said he's the best player ever. And I mean, yeah, if Shohei retires today, Barry's still the best, but Shohei's going to give him a run for his money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame player long before the steroids got him, but yeah.
Well, and dude, there's tons of cheaters in the Hall of Fame. So
yeah, true.
Like this isn't even, I don't know, dude. I just saw actually they just did a thing. They just allowed
Pete Rose
and Shoeless Joe Jackson and all these fools.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
So where's Barry and these guys? Like that
Roger Clemens and all that guys. Yeah. Well, let's go on to some more fun stuff. I know because we're friends that you and the wife were trying for kid number 4, and I saw a post 6-8 weeks ago that the swimmer landed. So you got kid number 4 on the way.
I do, man. It's exciting. It's exciting. I think, we're going to end up 3 or 4 or 5 is the goal. So,
oh, wow.
We're on pace, man.
You're on pace.
That's good. It's always good when you're on pace, but no, God is good. We're expecting in September. So, I've got, honestly, a lot of people are like, yeah, I got to do all these things for the baby comes. I literally am not even thinking about it because, whether the baby's here or not, I'm going to do the same thing. And when the baby comes, I'm going to maybe take a week off and then I'm back at it. So I think people make a lot of excuses with kids. I even say this on our, on our workshops and stuff. I go, guys, what's the number one reason you want to start this business? And people, majority of the time, like my family.
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, now I'm not going to make anyone raise their hand or anything, but I do know that most entrepreneurs take this one of 2 ways. The first type is the one who never gets started. And they say, oh, well, I'm going to have a newborn or I just had now's not a good time. I'm like,
yep.
Well, you can't blame your family as the reason you can't get started, but yet they're the reason you want to do this. That's stupid. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And then I use my own life as an example. I'm like, my wife has been pregnant or had a newborn for the last 7 years. So, and it's probably going to keep being that way for however long. Yet, I'm out here doing it because it's important to me. And then, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the entrepreneur who works 80 plus hours a week. And they're like, I'm doing this for my family, but I never see them. And I'm like, you also too have missed the point.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And again, I love it about you and your wife, what you guys do. And the fact that you're so intentional about weekends, you're so intentional about being done by 5 or 6. I think you kind of lead by example, and you're absolutely right. That the entrepreneur that drives me crazy is the one who says, and when one side of their mouth, I'm doing it for the family. And then I ask for their calendar and I'm like, where the hell is the family in this calendar? I don't see them. I don't see them. When are you seeing them exactly? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But let's wrap up on the final topic. You and I've talked a bunch about getting healthy. Before you were trying to get kid number 4, you were on TN or whatever it's called, TRT, and did some peptides and whatnot. I actually have just started that myself. My 2025 goal is to go from what was 35% body fat to sub 10.
Oh, man,
I'm now,
that is a big boy goal.
Yeah, I'm now on TRT, a little like the cream, which I think you started with, and then one peptide. I forget what it's called, but any other suggestions or whatnot for this journey that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, how old are you again?
53.
53, man. You started late. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I started at 34, 35, can't remember. But well, I take that back, man. I mean, I've been doing supplements my whole life. So, I've been doing vitamins and creatine and protein and all this stuff from the very beginning as an athlete. Now, I never took TRT or testosterone or peptides. Well, number one, when I was playing, peptides weren't even a thing.
Yeah, they didn't exist. They weren't out there.
Yeah, it wasn't an industry. It was just all steroids or nothing. Right. And HGH was like a big thing. So now, it just dawned on me one day. I'm like, I don't even I'm not competing anymore.
Yeah, there's no threats of suspension, right? There's no
it's not illegal. I can do whatever I want. That's best for my body. So that was like a realization for me. I'm like, yeah, I should try and optimize for these things. So for about a year, just like anything I do in business and life, I'm like, well, let's go into this with an open mind and test everything. So I did. I tried lots of different things, and I tried things I liked, tried things I didn't like, tried lots of different peptides, tried even HGH. I tried, I've tried everything. Let's just leave it at that. And then for about a year, I got off everything. So, and I can't say I got off everything. I just got off all the peptides and all that stuff. And I just pretty much just only did TRT. And that's actually where I'm at today. I am only on TRT, as well as just like normal Amazon supplements, right?
Okay.
So what's my conclusion for you and everything else? I think that number one, if anyone is going to do this, see a doctor first.
Amen.
Let the doctor prescribe you and tell you what you should
get your blood work, right? Get your blood work.
You got to have your blood work done. So don't just go buy stuff because you're like, oh, well, freaking Ryan's on this. Don't do that. And also don't do it because a 53-year-old is on it and you're 25. That's stupid.
No, that's
so yeah, I think the doctor's number one. Number two, I would say define your goals, right? At the end of the day, I hate when people get on these bodybuilders and stuff and they're like, well, dude, of course I could look like that if I took steroids. No, you won't.
No, the effort and the workload would crush most people. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you will not. I can tell you, I've tried the things they're on. I don't look like them. And
exactly.
I'm a world-class athlete. Like I'm in good shape and I work out and I'm super strong and I look nothing like them. I was like, I can tell you it's not because I didn't try to do some of the, like, sure, they've done like way more extreme things, but I know how hard it is to look like that. So, no, you will not get this rapid change because you all of a sudden just inject yourself. Now you will probably feel more motivated and better to do, but you still got to put the work in. You still got to work out. You still got to eat right. None of those principles ever change no matter what you're on.
No, that's one of the things that I'm really starting to look on as I take on this new challenge, just because it's hard. It's Jesse Itzler that kind of motivated me last year, saying like, do one hard thing a year that you always remember. So 2024 was the Vegas Marathon. Finished that. 2025 is going to be 53-year-old going sub 10%.
That's so hard.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm, what are we, 5.5 months in? I've gone from 34.8 to 14.5.
Wow. That's
Yeah, in
crazy.
5.5 months. So,
How are you measuring the fat? What system are you using?
well, I do DEXA. I did DEXA January 1st. I'll do it again
Okay.
July 1st, and
Okay.
then
So that's the
sometime
most
in December.
accurate. That's great.
But daily I have the Hume Body Pod, the one with the scale that like zaps electricity or whatever through your hands.
Yeah. Is
Yeah,
that
that's what
one
I'm.
accurate, would you
It says
say? Or
it's 98% accurate compared to DEXA. So it's the
and
best I could buy.
is it showing like 14% too?
Yeah, that's the number I quoted. 14.5 is off of that. Yeah, I haven't done a DEXA. I won't do it till July 1st.
Oh, so you haven't done a DEXA
No,
yet.
no, I did a DEXA at 34.8. I
Oh, okay,
haven't
got it.
done the, yeah, so it'll be done 3
What
times in the year.
I'm curious to see what happens because whenever I did DEXA, it always shows way higher percentage than what you would
Mm.
assume.
Yeah.
So I think most people would probably assume, just looking at me, maybe I'm like, I don't know, 10 to 15%. If I had to guess on DEXA what I am, I actually think I'm probably like 20.
All right, so I have more work to do. Well, good news is I still have 6.5 months.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then who knows? Maybe I'm selling myself short. But if I had to guess, people would look at me and be like, "Oh, you must be like 13%, 14%." And I think DEXA,
Yeah.
just for whatever reason, shows it to be
Higher.
much
Yeah.
higher than you think.
Yeah. Again, it's it's about the journey. That I have a target. It's about the journey. It's surprising me, at least for a 53-year-old, the walking has been a surprising, just more
Your health
steps.
got a lot.
Yeah, it has. I dropped the first 20 pounds.
Yeah. How much weight have you
Nothing.
lost?
So I lost 20 pounds really quick. Now I'm only down like 2 or 3 pounds, but I've actually
Putting on
lost.
muscle.
Exactly. The app says I put on 3 pounds of muscle in the last 2 months. So, my clothes are fitting entirely differently now. It's pretty wild.
I was watching this video. His name's Jeff Nippard. He's a bodybuilding guy. He's on YouTube. You should check him out. He's got millions of subscribers, but he did this thing of, he tried to get in the best shape of his life because he's natty. And, I think he's like 34, 35 years old. And he's like, dude, I want to see if like at 35, can I still build muscle if I did everything perfect?
Right.
So I think it's a good video worth watching. I found a lot of value watching it because, basically he ended up at the same weight that he started because he did a bulk and then he did a lean and he did all this stuff. And it was like, okay, I lost X fat, gained X muscle, am I at my plateau now genetically?
Right. So Jeff Nipper, I will definitely check that out. The last thing I'll ask you to just hit me is, how do you stay grounded and motivated, right? Are you just that way naturally because of your baseball career? Do you seek other people to kind of commiserate with or whatnot? How do you stay so grounded and still aggressive?
Yeah, I would say in my younger career, I did it the wrong way. And the way that I stayed motivated was what you just said, the external. So other people, right? You compete against other people. You're like, okay, if this guy's the top dog, I'm going to be better than this guy. And, yada, yada, yada. Right. And that path can work for a period of time. And then it just gets you focused on the wrong things. It creates the wrong mindset. You start to hope other people don't succeed so that you can. It's just not good. So I would say, unfortunately, I was that way during my entire baseball career. And it did not stop really until probably, I don't know, the last 4 years or so. Am I the biggest guy by any means? No, absolutely not. And I'm okay with that. I think at this point, what I'm focused on is winning and improving the things that are important to me. And so when I look at that, there's multiple things that I'm trying to get better at. And I mean, if you're not trying to get better, like I just don't know the alternative. Like I don't want my health to get worse. I mean, I don't want my golf game to get worse. I don't want my business to decline. I don't want my faith to get worse. I don't want my marriage to get worse. Like, why would I want any of these things to decrease?
Right.
And so, that means I have to work at them in order for them to not only just increase, but to just also maintain. right? Like it takes a
Yep.
huge level of work to maintain the business at its current level, to maintain my health, to maintain my marriage. So maintenance requires a high level of work, and then growth requires even more. And, it's not even like, I guess for me, I am satisfied knowing each day that I did everything possible to grow in these different things. I will be unsatisfied if I know that I left something, like I knew I could have did something and I didn't because I was lazy.
Love that. Love that. Well, Ryan, you've just announced the next WealthCon. Let's tell people where it's at, where they can find tickets. When is it?
Yeah. You can find them at wealthcon.org. It is going to be October 30th to November 2nd. So, 4-day event once a year now. We're hoping for 1,000, 2,000 people. We'll see how many we get. But we're going for the biggest one ever. I'm going to announce speakers here soon. Right now you got me and Ed Milet, and we're going to have others as well. But let me tell you, this one's going to be our best one yet. So if you've ever been to WealthCon, you're gonna love it. And if you haven't, I also made a choice this year. This is just adapting and pivoting. I'm gonna do our cheapest tickets ever. So I want everyone to have no excuse for why they couldn't come. So right now I think you can get a general admission ticket for like 70% off, and that puts it at like $150 for 4 days. Like, so, or I guess a GA would get 3 days, but still, where are you going to go get 3 full days,
Yeah.
for that. So,
well, you want to drop so you said yourself and Ed Milet, you want to sneak in one other person or just not yet?
Not yet. We're going to have a bunch. We're going to have a bunch. But now that we got the new dates, I'm still working on a few big names and everything else. So it's going to be good.
I like it. I was just teasing you. Ryan, you're amazing. Thank you for saying yes. Thanks you for coming on.
Appreciate you, man.
Mm-hmm.